All right, welcome everybody. June. You know, happy Father's Day to any fathers are out there. Hope you had a good weekend. Well, another edition. It's already June. I can't believe it. It's like killing me. You know, like SeaRUG, or Autodesk University sign-ups start in like 2 months. That's like already. I'm just barely trying to get through my through all of my 2014 deployment packages and updates and all that review. Still working through that. So anyways, yes, again, welcome everybody. Welcome industry professionals, students. Actually got an email from our student group that comes up from down south. They're not able to make it, so hopefully some of them are watching this online later. There's summer break, taking the summer off, so the only thing I really notice about summer right now is traffic's a lot lighter in the morning, so that's good. I don't mind that. Let's see. So as most of you know, we're AEC Community Technology Group, emphasis on Revit, BIM, and of course collaboration, which is a little bit about what we'll be talking about today. We are a free collaborative learning environment designed to benefit all the disciplines out there. As you know, BIM and tools like Revit, we're starting to become a closer-knit community, whether we like it or not, and to really benefit the project as a whole, or our projects as a whole. So per today's topic, I guess, how many people are using applications, maybe not necessarily Revit, for doing coordination and class detection, like third-party applications or different ones that Autodesk provides? Now, how many people are using Navisworks for the design team coordination, so pre-construction? Some, few, that's the same amount of hands. That's good. Excellent. Good to see. Okay, now of course, our executive sponsors. I always mention that you got to give our sponsors a lot of love, because without them, we can't do these types of meetings, these events, host our online stuff, and put things up, and of course get this great space and lunch, good prize drawings, all that kind of stuff. So our executive sponsors for the year is PPI Group, ID8, and of course today's host sponsor, IMAGINiT Technologies. Our premier partners that have supported us as well, Tetra 4D, Canon Solutions America, and Quarry Group. And of course our associate sponsors, which are organizations and firms around the area in our industry that really support what SeaRUG does and delivers each and every month. Wood Harbinger, Freiheit & Ho, GLY Construction, Mulvaney G2 Architecture, Light Day Construction, PCS Structural Solutions, FSI Consulting Engineers, Inventrix Engineering, and Integris Architecture. If you obviously want to find out some more information about sponsorship, or your firm might be interested, please go ahead and visit our Meetup site. So I have SeaRUG on the Pages tab. You'll find some information about sponsorship. And of course, you can find information about all these groups on the sponsors page of the Meetup site. So if you want a little bit more information about any of these groups. So I don't have a lot of announcements today. I'm kind of recap since we're in this transition onto the Meetup page, and I'm hoping everybody's enjoying it, because I know on an administrative side we are, the SeaRUG board is. It definitely makes our job a little bit easier, and hopefully it's a lot more presentable, a lot more good information that you've been able to see and track and even see who's RSVPing, who's coming to the meetings, that type of stuff. So presentation handout links are on the discussion boards, and of course the videos are available on our YouTube site. So there's a link there, or you can see on the lower right of our slide here is the youtube.com SeaRUG YouTube. One of the things was a big deal for it was improved communication. The RSVPs added comments and questions for presenters. So if you have anything prior to the meeting, you can actually get them on there. So the presenter has maybe an idea, some questions. Starting this month, actually you may have noticed the RSVP is open 24 hours. We used to cut it off at Monday at noon, but now we're Tuesday at 1 o'clock prior to the meeting. So we make sure we get everybody in. RSVPs are important. They know who's coming, but it also gives us an idea of how much lunches to get. So definitely RSVP. And you can also retract your RSVP, which is nice. If something comes up, say I can't make it, you can pull yourself down. So you as attending colleagues, maybe there's someone you see on there that are attending, and I want to talk to that person, so it looks like they'll be there. Meeting notifications, reminders, that's always nice because of course it puts it in your Outlook if you get those files to add there. Those ICS, ICO files, I forget. The ones that drop into your Outlook and create a calendar item for you. And then meeting feedback. This is a big one. We talked about this. Probably one of the other big keys besides RSVP is this meeting feedback. How did you like the meeting? Maybe there's some follow-up questions that, like for this meeting that Ken can go on there and you thought of something on your way back to the office that you wanted to ask. You can post it up and maybe Ken can check it out for a couple days and see what posts and give some responses. So that's good information, good feedback, and other people can see it as well. And about the old SeaRUG.org site, it's still up currently, but it will redirect as of July 1. So whether you pop up there and expect to see the old site after in July, you won't see it. It'll actually push you to the Meetup site. And we will send out, so I'm going to apologize in advance for the additional email that you'll get next week because a lot of people are still on the SeaRUG.org email list. But we wanted to make sure, since we have over 1,000 people that are a part of SeaRUG.org, we wanted to make sure we got that last message out there to everybody to get switched over. So some of you may get an email about that. If you're already signed up, obviously you can just ignore that email. Oh, and then of course, yeah, please pass the word to your friends, your peers in the industry, get signed up. And hopefully they enjoy it as much as you guys do. Who is that handsome devil? Yeah. So the Meetup group profile, a lot of people have already set this up. They've been there. I just went in. I just wanted to show this off. Now, we're not interested in obviously imposing anybody's privacy. If you don't want to fill this out, you don't have to. I think it's just more of the good information because now that we're on this page that we can see each other, who's that person, where do they work. There's a couple of little basic metrics that you can add into there. If you're interested, again, it's totally optional, but we just wanted to have another avenue to tie our groups in together, to tie people in. It's a good networking option if you choose to have a couple of these bits. You can add, like I added the firm that I work for, website and the name on there, so people look my name up, they'll see where I work and what I do there. And then for those of you on LinkedIn, I think a lot of us are, you can add your LinkedIn item on there, or if you have a Facebook or Twitter account, you can actually add that in there too. If you wish. And those are just the basic simple items that pop up when somebody selects on your name. So it's not over the top. Additionally, SeaRUG prize drawings, one of the nice things I found out about the Meetup site, another Meetup tie-in, is that rather than having you remember to bring your business cards and me running around and picking up everybody's cards for a drawing, I can actually print them out. I can print out the attendees list. So today we are going to do the drawing based off all the people that RSVP'd. So if you're a guest, sorry. If you're the +1, you're not in the drawing. So see, now you got to go sign up and register and come to the meeting. See how that works? So I have everybody right here that RSVP'd, and we'll be holding our drawing And that's the other key. So that's the other thing. We'll pull from the drawing, but you obviously must be present to win. And the only people that can't win are, and I already pulled your names out, are board members. I kind of went through them. Nope, nope, nope. Let's see. What else? I think that's about it. Oh, so the drawing that we have today is we have 2 Amazon $25 gift cards, and we have a few spiral books. How many? 9. We have really nice IMAGINiT spiral-bound books. Obviously, we couldn't bring enough for everybody, so we have a nice handful to draw to give some people some additional scribble material for their office. Okay, sponsor recognition. So like I mentioned before, as I mentioned every month, because it won't change how much we appreciate our sponsor support throughout the year of our group and the industry to help us put on these presentations and meetings. So I want to give special thanks to our host sponsor for this month, IMAGINiT Technology. So I want to introduce Delane Walter. He's the AEC account executive with IMAGINiT Technologies in the area. Tell us a little bit about what's going on, and he'll introduce our presenter. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Rob. Well, it's a privilege to be here and also to be your host. I am one of 2 AEC reps in the, if you want to call it Seattle, Puget Sound, Bellingham to Olympia area. Tom Ridge, my colleague here, some of you may know him. I've talked to him, met him, but he and I have kind of split up the assignment here in this area. So feel free to talk to us afterwards, ask us questions, those kinds of things. We'd love to meet you and visit with you. A couple things that are going on within IMAGINiT that I'd like to speak to you just briefly, and that is, I don't know if you're an owner out there or a principal and you've sent people to training only with high hopes and aspirations that these folks would come back with all this newfound knowledge and be able to be extremely more efficient, reduce the time, and certainly increase your profitability, and only to find that maybe that did not happen. Or if you were on the other side and you were the trainee, that you went to a training and were expecting some of the same things to happen and got there and found out that it was either way above your level or way below your level, and experienced some disappointment. We're finding that to be the case kind of more often than not right now, because there are so many different experience levels out there in the marketplace and within each individual firm. And so what we are currently in many conversations right now with our clients is doing customized training. And basically what that boils down to is it's understanding the individuals and where they are at in terms of their experience, knowledge, and skill set, and then how can we tailor that training then to meet not only that skill set of that individual to make that person stronger regardless of where they're at, but also to make it applicable to your specific industry and your specific company, and maybe even to a specific job, so that your impact and your ROI as an owner is immediate and quick. And so if that is something that you have experienced in the past, certainly let us know, because we'd love to visit with you about that. It does not certainly cost anything to have the conversations and just to talk with you, to explore that a little bit more. The other thing that we're finding that to be helpful with companies as well is that as you bring people on and maybe people change positions or experience training and they're all at different levels, we're finding that people lose track of the levels of where their people are currently at and what they know and maybe what they don't know. And so we are providing a number of what we call as a Revit health check right now for clients. And it's basically sitting down again with individual people, interviewing them just to understand what their skill sets are, what they're best at, what they're weakest at, and not to evaluate them negatively, but also just to give you that idea of when you do go to look into a training, that you understand what kind of training your people need instead of just doing a blanket cookie cutter, which usually ends up being more of a waste of resources. So, variety of different things. One last thing I would like to mention: if you've been here before and you maybe heard a product associated with IMAGINiT called Clarity, which is basically collaborating. It sits on top of Revit server, collaborating with within your own firm with multiple locations, or collaborating with outside firms with the highest level of security. We have done some recent updates with that just in the past couple of months, and there are different pricing versions than there were in the past. So if it's something that you were very interested in the past and felt like maybe that it was a great product, great tool, but the pricing didn't fit as well, certainly revisit that with either myself or with Tom, and we'd like to discuss with you the new kind of the new options that are available for you. So with that, I'm going to step aside and introduce Ken Yost. Ken has been with IMAGINiT a long time. We'll just put it that way. He is very experienced in the world of Revit, and actually we're very fortunate to have Ken actually live in this area. So he is our resident application engineer based out of Seattle, just a few blocks down, and handles pretty much all of or any Revit training that you would be looking for, or anything associated with Revit here at our facility in Seattle. So without further ado, Ken. Thank you.
All right. Afternoon, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Ken Yost, and the long time is I've been on this side of the table now for 25 years. Started in 1988. So I've been with IMAGINiT now for 11. Today, I'd like to talk with you about, skip over most of these because I'm not a big PowerPoint guy, but the one I wanted to show you here is I want to talk to you about how you can use a product called Navisworks in conjunction with Revit to help do some, I'll call it, I guess I'd say better clash detection than what Revit can do on its own. How many of you actually have tried to use the clash detection inside of Revit? Okay. One of the things that it doesn't really do a good job at is you don't have any way of tracking what you've done once you have found a clash. You fix it, but you can't really document it too well. You have to document it kind of the way we've always done in the past. Also, if you're working on big files, you know that can be an issue for Revit. For those of you that don't know anything about Navisworks, Navisworks is purpose-built for doing clash detection. So it will actually take your models and reduce the size of them by about 70% most of the time. I've seen higher numbers and I've seen a little bit lower numbers, but 70% is a pretty good number. So it strips out a lot of the information that it doesn't need and just focuses on showing us the model and showing us clashes. Another thing that it does is it supports, well, I can't remember the exact number, over 30 different file formats. I think the number is closer to 40 now, but 30 is a safe bet. So if you are working with someone who, heaven forbid, is not using Revit, you can bring all the models together inside of Navisworks to have a look at them as a composite model. So today, when I'm out on site with clients, most of the time I see people, they talk about using Navisworks more in the construction side when they're actually doing building the building and they want to check for interferences. A lot of people don't think about it in terms of using it as a design now. I was surprised that so many of you raised your hand earlier. I didn't think there would be quite that many people using Navisworks as a design tool. This might be just old hat for you guys, but hopefully I might be able to show you a few things with it. And today I wanted to talk with you mainly about how to use Navisworks in conjunction with Revit to have an easy and repeatable process for doing interference and clash detections. Now we are going to have, my presentation doesn't, because I wanted to focus strictly on how Revit and Navisworks interact with each other, we're only going to be about a half hour. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them. I prefer interaction when I'm doing my presentations to me just talking. So feel free. And Rob suggested a lot of you, how many of you have actually never seen Navisworks before? Okay. Navisworks does a few things. Of course, the main thing that I'm going to be talking about today is clash detection. But it can also do, how many of you have seen those nice construction animations where the building just starts to magically build itself? Okay. Don't know if those are useful for you or not, but those are very easy to do in Navisworks with something called Timeliner. With Timeliner, I can actually apply a construction schedule that you would do in Microsoft, and I can apply that schedule to objects in the Navisworks model, and I can animate it over time. A couple years ago, to give you a quick example, I was involved with a client, and we were using Navisworks to animate how we were going to get some big generators into a electrical power plant, the kind that you have to move with the big tractor trailer wheels that don't have a tractor with them. They're just the wheels, and you operate them with the remote control. So we used Timeliner to actually do that and see where we needed to stop construction so we could get these generators into place. So there's some interesting applications with it. So let's go ahead and start. Today I'm going to go ahead and just open up a model for us here. And for those of you that have been using Navisworks in the past, I'm actually going to open up the Revit model directly. I'm not going to export it from Revit, and I'll show you that here in a little bit, how you could do that. To use the Switchback feature, which I'm going to show you today, you really need to open it up directly. A lot of things have changed over the course of Navisworks. When Revit opens up the model, it's going to go ahead and it's going to make its own compressed format file for it to use. But it still is going to remember that it came from the Revit file. So let's go ahead and just build a composite model here. And for those of you that don't know, Navisworks was not developed by Autodesk. They bought it, just like they bought Revit so many years ago. They purchased Navisworks. So Navisworks does some things that we may not be familiar with in terms of Autodesk products. When you're building a composite model, you append the files instead of link them together or XREF them together to make a model. So here we have the model, and if we look at it, you can see here all the different things. You should probably recognize these from Revit, correct? Pretty similar to what we're seeing in Revit. All the objects in Revit are listed here by their levels. Can everyone see that? Okay. So when they were talking about in the description of this presentation, they were talking about telling you what you had to do in Revit to get it ready for Navisworks. You really don't have to do anything. Revit is built to go directly into, well, I shouldn't say built because Revit was first, but Revit and Navisworks work very well together. You don't have to worry about trying to figure out layers and things like that. Everything is by object. Navisworks likes that a lot. So what I'm going to do for us here is just to make it easier to see, I'm going to go ahead and hide one of my models so I can take a better look at it. And the thing I wanted to show you today is we want to look at some clash detections between our HVAC system and our structure. So I'm going to go ahead and build myself some selection sets. Now, a selection set is just grouping some objects together to form something that makes it easier for us to see. And there's two ways to do it. Most people are familiar with just selecting an object and turning it into a selection set. So for example, I can come in and I can just start picking some objects here. And I can say I want to have all of these. We'll select it by its name. Do you see how it selected everything that in the model that was named the same thing as the objects that I picked? Pretty straightforward. And so now I'll go ahead and in Navisworks they call it a set, but I'll just go ahead and call this my HVAC selection. And the nice thing about this is I can go back any time and I can pick on that and it will select those objects. I don't have to worry about going in and picking everything individually. This is what's known as a static selection set. And it's what most of us have always done in Navisworks. You've built these selection sets, or hopefully for those of you that have been using Navisworks, you have been building selection sets to make it easier to work in your models. The next method, and this is the method that I like the most, is especially for early on when you're in the design phase of a project. You know, in the design phase of a project, things are constantly changing. Well, unfortunately, they're probably constantly changing all the way through, but in the design phase, they're changing more than they would normally, okay? And so with this, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go and I'm going to search. And for those of you that are familiar with database searching, this should be fairly familiar to you. Is everybody familiar with database searching? So finding items by their name, equals or greater than, or all these kind of things. Okay, and I'm going to look for my columns and I'm going to say find all. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a set, I'm going to call this columns for us. And just like that now, I've made a set similar to the set that I made earlier, right? But the difference is that this set is dynamic. And what that means is if I go back into Revit and I update the model and I come back into Navisworks, the objects that I've added, I will see them now in Navisworks. So the set will update as I update my model. And you can see right now there's my HVAC and there's my columns. And I'll make one more for us. I'll just go ahead and pick, and I'll go ahead and do the same thing here. We'll say select all by name, and we'll save this, and we'll call it roof framing. If I could spell, it would be helpful. There we go. So now I've made my sets. Any questions about that? Pretty easy? There were no smoke and mirrors. Everything I'm doing is exactly how it works. No special buttons. Now what I'd like to do for us is let's switch over to Revit, and we'll go ahead and open up the structural model. And I'm going to go here. Let's do main level here. And I'll grab a few of my columns here. And I'll just go ahead and make a couple of objects for us. As I like to say, not because I should, but just because I can. We'll just make sure that this section of the building is going to stand up and not fall down. And we'll go ahead and save this. And I'll switch back over, and I'm going to go ahead and refresh my models. And can you see there in the model my new columns that I just put in my Revit model? And if I go back now to my sets and I pick on my columns, whoops, let me go over this here. We'll pick on our columns once more. Can you see how they have been added to my set? So with the dynamic sets, as you are updating your models in Revit, they will update in Navisworks when you refresh them. For those of you that have used, yes?
When you were building your static set, if you found something that you were just going to add or deduct things from a static set?
You can. It's with the button called Add. And I can add to my static sets. And the question was, if there's something you miss in a set, can you add things to it? And you can. With the dynamic sets, I haven't seen the Add button. I was looking for it the other day, and I didn't see it. So I'd have to rebuild them with a dynamic set. With the static sets I can add to. So now, if we look here, let's go ahead and just say I'd like to look at all of these sets. And so now if we zoom out, you can see with just a few clicks here, I'm looking at what I want to check for interferences. Pretty nice. So a couple of simple picks, and I've made my sets that I want to check. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go run my Clash Detective. And I'm going to go ahead and add a test. And right here we're going to say I want to test between my sets that I've already made. On one side, I want to check the HVAC against my roof framing and against my columns. And of course, if we look down here, there's a couple different types of tests that you can run. The one I'm running right now is a hard interference, so I actually want to know if things actually run into each other. But I can also do clearances, and I can do duplicate items. So I can test to see if I have duplicate items, or I can do a clearance. In this particular example, I'm simply going to do a hard test, and I'm going to check it for surfaces. If I wanted to, I could also do lines. So I could run down the center line of pipes and then give it a clearance around the center lines. I can also do point clouds. So I can run my model against a point cloud that I've taken. So let's go ahead and run this test. And you'll see here that that's more than I thought I would have. Did I do that right? Let's just come down and tell it we want to look here, and it doesn't seem like I ran that test correctly because it's not showing you what I wanted to show you. Here, let's see here. Let's try that once more here. HVAC against those. Surfaces and surfaces, yes, everything's good there. So we'll run it.
You have everything selected right now. You have to click off of it.
Ah, there we go. Thank you. I was going to say, how come that's not looking like I wanted it to look? And I'm going to tell it I just want to highlight a single clash at a time. And you can see right now, here's clash 1, clash 2, so forth and so on. If I come down here to clash 14, this is the one I wanted to show you, I think. I'm a little bit farther down. One second. There, we're getting closer. There it is. This is the area I wanted to show you because you can see that this piece of ductwork is going through several of my joists. And down here at the bottom is showing me the 2 files that are involved. And do you see this button? It's called Switchback. Well, Switchback is going, oops, one second. I forgot to do this. I always forget to do this. I need to enable Switchback. There we go. So now if I switch back, it's going to open up my Revit model, and it's going to show me the view where the clash is occurring. So exactly the view that I saw in Navisworks, I'm going to see in Revit, and you can see here it says Navisworks. And that was clash number 29. So I'm just going to rename that and call it clash number 29. And now I'll come down here and we'll just slide that back and we'll save it. Now we'll come back here into Revit and we'll go ahead and refresh. And before I run the test again, I wanted to talk to you for a moment about, if you look over here in my report, do you see how it says all the clashes are new? So this is the first time I've run the report, so I have 63 new problems that I haven't seen before. Now, when I run this test again, what you're going to notice is I have 63 clashes still, but 58 are active and 5 have been resolved. And if I come up here, you can see the 5 that have been resolved, which means that they are no longer a problem. Yes?
Question on AutoCAD verticals, if you've got Revit stuff and AutoCAD verticals, can you use that switchback to actually change AutoCAD stuff as well?
Yes, you can. It's just not, if you have the AutoCAD drawing loaded, you can go back to AutoCAD just like you can go back to Revit. as long as you have AutoCAD up and running and the switchback feature enabled, just like with Revit.
Are you able, when you have like Revit models and AutoCAD models together, can you make selection sets
Out of both of them?
yeah, like static ones?
Yes, you can. Because in Revit, Revit says the object is just an object. I don't really care where it came from. That's one of the nice things about Navisworks is the fact that when I bring them in, it makes a composite model and it strips away all of the extraneous information. Because as your projects get bigger, or if you're working on larger projects, imagine how big the Revit models get and then combine all those Revit models together in one model and think about how big your file actually becomes. It can be, if I had thought about it, I was going to bring it and I didn't because I didn't know if it would be appropriate. I have a Navisworks model that has 105 systems, different systems in it. One level of the building is an 89 megabyte Navisworks file. So multiply that by 70%. Well, to think about how big the individual files would be if you tried to work on them together. And in this particular case, some of the models were done in Revit, some of the models were done in, I don't know what it's called, Bentley Pipe, is that what it's called now? Can't remember, but other products that do modeling. In Navis just sees them all as objects that I can build selection sets out of. So it doesn't care where the files came from. I can build selection sets. And the switchback feature will work back and forth as long as the products are opened. Another nice thing about this is the fact that once I have this, I can actually go ahead and I can generate a report about this. So you could mark this up with some markups. You could generate a report and send it out to your different consultants. Questions about that so far? Mm-hmm.
So who in the building process would actually be operating Navisworks? The contractor, generally?
Well, and the question was who in the process would actually be running the Navisworks collaboration. I think it could be anybody. From my experience in the field, usually it is the general contractor, but they're doing it during the construction portion. We're talking about being able to do something early on in the process where you want to see if does the duct actually interfere with my beams, things like that. Not kind of the fine tuning, but kind of general, is this going to be a problem? Can I fix it now and not have to worry about it later, kind of thing.
And is the typical result of that examination that you're actually changing the files themselves?
That's correct.
And then you send back that revised file to the party that sent it to you in the first place?
You could do that. I've seen it done both ways. If you really want to take advantage of the switchback feature, I don't know why I can't say that today. You really want to be able to have access to the models. That's important. If you don't have access to the models, you can't do the switchback. So you'd want to have ownership of the models in order to change them like this. Typically what happens is the person that's running Navisworks will do a clash, they'll find the problems, they will mark up the views, they'll generate a report, and they'll send that report back to the powers that be and say, here's all the things that I found, please fix your models and send me back new models. So that's typically how it works. In this, what I'm showing you here today, is the way that early on in the process you could be checking, let's say for example, between the structural model and your doors to see if you had any problems between columns interfering with doors, or, as an example I saw in the field, a gusset plate 2 inches behind the swing side of a door, so it wasn't really an actual interference, but the door, you couldn't open the door. So you could run a clearance and find things like that early on in the process. In my experience, it's mainly been the general contractor that's running Navisworks, but anybody can do it. It's just a question of if you want to take ownership of that part of the process. I guess that would be the answer I would give you. So as an architect, you could say, you know, I have Navisworks and I don't mind, and I'll do it.
I think you want to draw that line as far as how far you can go with this and what the focus is versus, you know, because obviously you don't want to take it to these methods.
Yeah.
As design versus as construction level. So.
Yeah. I would agree. I mean, those are conversations above what I call my pay grade, if you will. I see this just as another tool in your bag of tricks, and a lot of you probably already have this. If you have, you know, the Building Design Suite's Ultimate, you already have Navisworks Manage at your disposal. So you could certainly do this and use this. You know, you could use this internally to keep track of things internally as well. Now, another nice thing about this is once I have done this, oh, and by the way, once you have done this, these sets right here, once I've built these sets, I can go ahead and I can export them out. So I can save them and I can use them in another model. So I don't have to, I don't really have to recreate the wheel. I can use them in another model on my next project. So you could create an office standard, if you will, of sets. I don't know if you would, but you could. You know, if you're doing, if you have a big, you know, a big client and you're always doing, you know, you do a lot of work for that client, you're always doing the same kind of stuff, you could make just a standard for that client, and then you could always have it and you wouldn't have to keep recreating it. Not that it's difficult to recreate, but you could just have a standard. Questions, comments?
Can you see the sets in Revit after you switch back?
Can you say that one more time?
Can you see your selection sets in Revit or manipulate them?
No, you can't. This is strictly a set inside of Navisworks. Now, when I run the clash, as you saw, it showed me the item that was clashing. It highlighted it for me when I went back into Revit. But I don't have a way right now to see the sets that I've built in Navisworks inside of Revit. One more time, a little bit louder.
The export set you can create on there, you can export that and import it into 360 Blue.
I haven't tried that yet. That would be interesting. I don't see why, but I haven't tried it yet.
Because there's no way to integrate it. It's not just Blue. So you can use it Blue.
Well, that's the whole point of Blue, is Blue is I'm supposed to be able to do it. By the way, the question was, can I see my selection sets when I go to 360 Glue? Is everybody familiar with Autodesk 360? Okay. If you're not, Autodesk 360 is going to be our access to computing in the cloud, I guess we'll call it. It does a lot of nice things. 360 Glue is, I don't know, would you call it specifically built to show me Navisworks files and things like that? I guess I would say that. I only got to use the trial of Glue, so I haven't gotten to do much with it. But if you have access to 360 Glue, you're supposed to be able to actually manipulate Navisworks directly from the cloud. So I should be able to put my Navisworks model up in the cloud and then access it from any tablet device. So, for example, if you have an iPad and you're out in the field, or you have a Surface or any of the tablets that are out there, you should be able to access the Navisworks information if the Navisworks file is actually living in the cloud. But I haven't tried it. I'm waiting for them to deem me worthy to have a 360 Glue account. You guys get more privileges than we do sometimes. Anything else? Any questions about Navisworks in general? Yes,
I recently had a problem with Revit model that I exported, and I had architect, electrical, mechanical, and do online in the apps. Is there a way to get it to online? They were aligning it in Revit, but they weren't in that.
The way that I usually do it is I align them, I get everything lined up before. I bring it in Navisworks, but in Navisworks you can move things into position. So as long as you have a common spot, you can move things into position. But I like to get things lined up before I bring them into Navisworks. It was, and then it didn't line up when you got into Navisworks? I'd have to look at it. That usually doesn't happen if everything is lined up beforehand. Yes,
So that's the question. Like, when you have, and I work primarily with AutoCAD verticals.
Okay.
But with AutoCAD verticals, I'm kind of devising a way to get clean extracts all into one model, because in the past I've found that if you have a lot of users that save things differently and don't detach their extracts and stuff, you can get duplicates of stuff in Navisworks, and it can be clunky to use and give you duplicates on top of each other. It's kind of a pain. So I was just curious as to when you're setting up Revit models as well, do you have to kind of sift down all that extraneous junk that might get thrown along with it?
Can you give me an example of the extraneous information?
Well, like I was saying, if you have, I've got one model on the entire plant, and everything kind of gets extra into that and attached, and then it takes it very nicely when I have kind of one layer of, I guess, it kind of filters out any extras and junk that may be attached in PDFs or anything like that. So anyway.
Oh, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And so I was wondering, with Revit, do you have to prepare your models in a specific way like you would for AutoCAD verticals?
Not really. There's no special prep. I mean, Navisworks has come a long way since it started. I mean, we now have, I can now bring in DWFs and things like that, and it will see them And I don't know if you noticed this on the model or not. Let me get back out here. But when I come in here and I say, let's go back home. If you look here, you can actually see now in Navisworks we actually have our grids. Our grids come in with us. And in the past, we used to have to do different things to make the grid come in. So Navisworks is doing a much better job itself of kind of keeping out the extra stuff. But I can also, I can bring it in whatever I need to bring in. So DWFs and things like that. But in Revit, at least it's been my experience, that the model comes in and I don't get extra stuff unless I specifically tell it I want that information. Yes,
When you're doing a class detection with a point cloud, that point cloud has to be really, really cleaned up without any traces, noise, or anything like that. Like people walk through the lasers and stuff.
Okay. The question was, when I bring in a point cloud, does it have to be cleaned up? The only answer I could give you is I haven't had an issue, but I've never had to deal with I haven't had a real point cloud come from, the surveyor directly. I only get the demo point clouds, so I wouldn't feel comfortable saying yes because I assume that mine have already been cleaned up and made to look nice. So I couldn't give you a definitive answer. So what was that again?
You have to filter out the point cloud, bring it in raw.
Okay. So you need to do a little cleanup first?
It'll clean up and reduction and punch spacing and stuff like that. The ferrous can take you the ability to knock out like a fifth, or take 1/5. Yeah. You really don't need this. Yeah, there we go.
Okay. Well, Rob, I'll turn it back over to you.
All right. Awesome. Thanks, Ken. Really appreciate it. Actually, I just got I was just checking my emails while Ken was going through his questions. Vasari Beta 3 is now out. Ooh. Any Vasari users in the house? Go back. Get your downloads now. Surprising news. I was like, Beta 3 works on Windows 8 and with Revit 2014. So a little bit of bonus news there. Just came hot off the press. So, well, I want to thank everybody for coming out. We got done a little bit early, which is fine. Give us a little bit more room to enjoy the walk back or, getting back to the office. I want to, of course, thank Ken for his presentation. Really appreciate it. We'll have this posted up. Yep. We'll have this. We'll have that posted up soon, and if we have any, supplemental handouts that maybe he wants to throw in with it, we can do that. Of course, I want to thank IMAGINiT Technologies, Delane and his team for coming out. So these guys will be hanging out. If you want to have some additional questions, maybe something just popped in your head, you want to talk to IMAGINiT about some of the things that Delane talked about, they'll be around. Our next meeting is July 17th, starting to get smack dab in the middle of summer, but hopefully you guys can find a time to come out and join us. And what else? And I think that's about it. All right, guys, feel free to hang out. There's still some lunches left if you didn't get enough. These guys will be hanging out around too. And if not, we don't see you, we'll see you next month. Thanks.